I've got a special guest with me today. I don't think he needs much of an introduction. I don't want to shower him in compliments either. But Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, big supporter of the BIG3 as well, along with many other things, entrepreneur, Shark Tank, you do it all. How are things going for you, and kind of walk me through kind of what a day in the life of Mark Cuban looks like?
Oh my God, things are going good. If the Mavs are winning, I'm happy. Day in the life, used to be I took my kids to school to start the day, but my 16-year-old daughter's now driving. That's an adventure. And then just stuff like this, interviews, meetings. I try to do as few meetings as possible, but they happen. And then just reading and getting whatever I need to get done.
Yeah, definitely. I want to go back really quick. I mean, when you purchased the Mavericks, what was like your ultimate goal? What was the goal in mind, and how has it changed over the years?
I had two goals. One was to have as much fun as humanly possible, and two was to win a championship. And those goals have not changed. I just try to enjoy it, and try. Now with Luka, hopefully we're back on track, and KP to win a championship again. Very simple goals.
The thing about this organization that really strikes me is just the continuity that you've kept throughout the years. It's very rare. In any professional sports league or team to have that sort of continuity that you have through coaches, management,
right,
etc. Why do you believe that's so important, and kind of what's the structure of the organization, and why is that so?
Well, it's the same fundamental principle that I had when I first bought the team, that don't make a change unless you have someplace better to go. And so change just to change something or to send a message, I'm not a big believer in. And so when I came in, Nelly was the coach and general manager, and Donnie was an assistant coach, an assistant general manager effectively. And it was obvious to me that they'd forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. And so the concept of me coming in and just making changes to bring in people I hadn't met yet, just didn't make any sense to me. And then it's the same thing with coaches. I mean, now with Rick, he's a great coach. And it's not like, okay, Rick, we had a bad season, let's go find somebody better. You're not going to find somebody better. And so unless I've got somewhere to go, why make a change? It just doesn't make any sense. And so, and over time you learn how to put people in a position to succeed, what their strengths and what their weaknesses are, so that you can then complement them. And I know enough about basketball now that it doesn't freak me out what I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I've had 20 years to watch and observe and learn and just get a better feel for what happens. And so, the continuity wasn't necessarily by design, but just with some basic principles. Unless you know you have something better, don't change. What you have is good.
Yeah.
The grass isn't always greener on the other side.
I think a lot of people come to realize that, obviously. You look at
when it's too late,
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the teams that's near and dear to my heart in watching NBA basketball, watching basketball for as long as I have, is the 2011 Mavericks. And it's near and dear because I believe it revolutionized the sport. And I'm not here to try and like shower compliments on it, but I do believe that team had an impact on what is now being played.
Oh, I mean, just the shooting threes.
Just being able to surround a big like Dirk with 4 shooters, essentially.
Right.
And to be able to not only do that, but beat the Heat in the way that you guys did. Talk to me about that team, and do you see it as revolutionary as well, or is that kind of hard for you to
I don't see it necessarily as revolutionary, but I see it as being opportunistic. I see it as being mentally strong, particularly Dirk. I see it as recognizing that we had veterans that understood the importance of what was going on. When a guy comes into the league, they want to win championships, but they have to find out who they are and how they fit. And when you get somebody like Dirk, who'd been in the league, 12, 13 years at that point and had already lost in the finals, and Jed and Peja and Karan, even though he wasn't playing at that time. We just had a lot of veterans, Steve, that really understood that you don't get many opportunities like this. And once we got past Portland and then the Lakers, it was like, we can't let this opportunity slide. And I think that's what made the team special, just the mental toughness. And I'd say part 2 to that is the fact that we were opportunistic. I remember preseason that year talking to Coach about playing an entire preseason game, just playing zone. And the thought process was, well, teams aren't used to practicing against the zone, and they aren't used, so they won't necessarily know how to play against one. And we used that effectively throughout the entire year. And, you know, Eastern Conference teams only played us twice, so they had and no one else was playing zone, so they had really no reason to practice it. And I think that really gave us an advantage when we got to the Heat.
Yeah, no, it was that. Like I said, I mean, I think you look at like what the Golden State Warriors did, and like moving into what basketball is now, and I think it's kind of the first evolution of it.
And you know, I will say the jack up the three thing. I think Don Nelson in the mid '90s. The records, when the Warriors and the Rockets started breaking those records, the records were set by the Mavs when we didn't have a very good team.
Yeah.
And we had George McLeod and who knows who else. And we were jacking up 43s a game in the 90s, you know. And that was Nelly. I mean, you know, he saw the obvious, which was a three, you know, you don't have to make as many to score.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I give Nelly a lot of credit. And, you know, they always called him the mad scientist and, you know, said, you know, he'd conjure up all kinds of crazy things. And, you know, back then we just called him crazy. Now we use analytics to support, you know, so it's data supported and evidence based. But Nelly had a great intuition to be able to figure that out.
Now, the Mavericks, since you purchased them as well, I think what it's had on the impact, not only for the sport of basketball, but I'd say even in the Dallas community. You guys do a lot in the community.
Yeah.
You've impacted the community.
We try.
And you look at like fan base and how it's grown over the years. What do you attribute that to, and kind of why is that so important on your end?
Well, a couple different things there. In terms of the fan base, winning always helps. Having a guy that's so iconic like Dirk obviously helps. In terms of the community, you know, I said it from the time I bought the team. I realized it very quickly that even though I wrote the check and I write the checks, I don't own the team. North Texas does. You know, there are a lot of really big industries around the world, but professional sports and college sports to a certain degree, let me put it this way, when Google has or Facebook has the best quarter in the history of all companies, no one throws a parade. You know, when your professional sports team, or in some cases college team, wins a championship, the whole city's on fire. You know, and so you come to realize very quickly that that's just unlike any other business. And when you win, it connects you to community, but you have other obligations. You know, we think, and now with our CEO, Cint Marshall, she's phenomenal at it, where you have to build a connection. And we want to have a diverse fan base. We want to have diverse everything, so that, you know, people recognize that we're a reflection of Dallas-Fort Worth rather than being ignorant of what's going on, or who really we should connect to.
Yeah, and I'll mention on top of that, obviously you came out to the BIG3 this summer for the Dallas BIG3 ball out.
Yep.
What was your kind of impression of seeing it live, and kind of what's your impression of just the BIG3 overall?
It's fun, right? I'm a basketball junkie. I mean, you know, my favorite thing to do, I still go play pickup. You know, today, you know, we have a game tonight. I'll be out on the court early getting my shots up. So I love all basketball. You know, I love watching my kids play. You know, my son's 10 and my daughter's 13, and they both play. And I love going to watch their games. Sometimes even if they're not playing, I'll watch. I'm just a basketball junkie. And watching the BIG3, it's such a unique brand of basketball and so many familiar faces that it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, and you can tell it's designed to be entertaining, but it's also competitive. And so the guys get into it, and the fans certainly get into it. And so, you know, I wanted to support Jed. I wanted to support D. Steve. And it was just fun to get out there and watch fans support him as well.
Yeah, definitely. So to add on to this question, let's say Jeff and Cube come into the Shark Tank and told you about the BIG3 and the idea. What would your opinion be, and would you be on board?
I mean, I'd definitely be excited about it. It would just depend on the valuation. That would be the thing. But as a business itself, I'm bullish. Yeah, I'd be all in.
Speaking of Shark Tank,
Okay.
What's the biggest misconception, public misconception about Shark Tank? What do you hear?
That it's not our own money, that it's our own money. The fact that people think that the deals only take 10 minutes when they come into the Shark Tank, because that's how long they are on TV. They can go on for an hour and a half if they're really intense.
What's the longest one you've been a part of?
2.5 hours. Plate topper. The guy would not shut up. But it was a good product. He just couldn't get out of his own way. So they can go on forever, and then they edit them down. Other misconceptions, that Kevin O'Leary is smart. That Robert Herjavec really loves animals. He doesn't. He's just an act. No, I'm kidding. I mean, no, it's fun doing the show. And the best part about it is that families watch it, and that's why I do it. It gets young kids excited about being entrepreneurs, and that I think we need that, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What would an older Mark Cuban tell a younger Mark Cuban?
Don't fuck it up.
That's a good answer. There you go. Yeah. But in this phase of your life, you've done so much, obviously. I mean, there's a bucket list, I'm sure. What's something that you haven't done that you want to do?
I actually don't have a bucket list. I mean, I still got lots of good stuff to do, and I look at it no different than when I was younger. What can I go out there and fuck up and change and disrupt and have fun with and just enjoy?
Yeah.
The only difference now is I have kids, which changes a lot, obviously, but just. Yeah, I mean, I really haven't changed my approach to things. It's just, I guess the biggest difference was at the beginning, nobody knew who I was. And so you had to kind of like break things to get people's attention. Now I break things or do it differently, or it's okay, whatever, that's Cuban and we're used to it. But yeah, I mean, I don't look at it, well, I'm older now. No, fuck that. I'm just going to try to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. In your mind, what's the next evolution of the internet and the internet age we live in?
Artificial intelligence is going to change everything. It'll have a bigger impact on us than the internet, than phones, mobile computing, or mobile networking, wide area networking. It's just going to dwarf everything, and it's harder to learn, so it's harder to implement, which means it's going to change a lot of things, and not everybody's going to be able to adapt. And so it's going to be really scary, but also interesting, and create a lot of opportunities as we go forward. We're still in the first inning of the preseason games when it comes to AI, but it's going to have a dramatic impact. And so that's one of the things I spend a lot of time on, reading about artificial intelligence, reading about applications, reading about how to build, machine learning models or neural networks, and because that's how I compete, by trying to know more and apply it to things I know well.
Definitely. 2018, Dallas Mavericks draft room. Walk me through the first few picks of that and when that deal goes down for Doncic.
It's funny. So the way it works for the draft is all general managers call all the other general managers and they say, I'm not going to tell you my pick.
Yeah.
And you're not going to tell me your pick. But what do you think, who do you think this team's going to draft, that team, all the other teams you walk through. And then by doing it with all the other teams, right, you kind of figure out who's drafting who.
Yeah.
And then, teams try to put out smoke screens and this and that. But most teams end up figuring out. So we had a good idea what we thought would happen, but you don't know until you know. And so, Luka was our guy, and we were willing to do pretty much anything to get him. And so, it was just a matter of nerves. And so first, trying to get a deal done with Atlanta, because we knew they wanted Trey, and trying to just actually get it done. Because I love Tony, their owner. He's smart, he's focused. He's one of the good owners. And so, Donnie and Travis were on the phone talking about deals, and but general managers have a tendency to waffle. Because they don't want to make a bad. They're always afraid until till the deadline, the timeline makes them pull the trigger. But Donnie and Travis were pretty close, and then I got on the phone with Tony, and I'm like, okay, we just got to figure this out. The clock's running out, and so we negotiated. He goes, give me your best deal. We gave him our best deal, and they said yes. That's
incredible. Yeah, and what was the reaction like when that went down?
We were excited. We were terrified, like anything else, right?
Yeah.
You think if everybody always knew, then Michael Jordan would have been drafted first.
Yeah.
Anthony Bennett wouldn't have been drafted. Teams make mistakes. We've made a ton of mistakes. We didn't draft Giannis because I thought he would fall down to 18 where I thought we were, and Milwaukee grabbed him at 15. You make mistakes. And so you know, we were excited, but there's two different types of fears. There's the fear of not getting your guy,
Yeah.
and then there's the fear of when you get your guy, is he the guy you thought you
Yeah.
thought he was? And obviously Luka has been.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the. I think I messaged you probably like 10 minutes after that deal went down. It was like, congratulations, you just got the steal of the draft.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure you got a lot of those.
Yeah, I got a lot, but then you just don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know.
So, I guess from my perspective, what did like? You have to have some inkling in your mind about what is going to play out, like how he will play.
Yeah.
What was your expectation going in, and how far has he exceeded that?
I mean, our expectation would be that he could be an amazing player, probably all-star caliber, but it was going to take a few years.
Yeah.
And so it's not so much he's exceeded our expectations, it's that he's done it so quickly.
Yeah.
And that's been the crazy part. And just the progress he's made from first to second year. And, we're talking about him, and here he's only played a year and a half. It's crazy. And, there's a lot of players with a lot of great talent and skills, and it really comes down to what is their mindset? Do they have the mental makeup to be able to make themselves great NBA players?
Yeah.
Can they adapt? Can they learn? Do they work hard? Are they disciplined when it comes to eating and sleeping and all the other things that keep your body healthy? And even after the first year, you don't know. So even this summer, it was like, okay, this is where superstars are made. How hard will Luka work? And will he be disciplined? And he was. And that's why we've seen this big difference. And just watching him, I mean, we just played Sacramento a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And he had a couple passes. And, to Luka's credit, a lot of people didn't notice, but he didn't take a three in the second half of that game. And it was because he, in the past, he'd shoot until we started making some.
Yeah.
This time it was like, okay, I'm not feeling it from the 3-point line. Let me see how else I can impact games without doing my step back. And he did it, and it made his teammates have to be more aware of what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because it's like watching, whether it's Luka, James Harden, whoever, when a guy goes into that rhythm dribble,
Yep.
it's going up, right?
Oh, yeah.
And teammates know it's going up too, and so they kind of they aren't ready for a pass and or as ready to shoot as you'd like them to be. And so Luka didn't settle for the three, and we saw Luka make a huge step in that Sacramento game that's gone very much unnoticed.
Yeah, definitely. I did want to touch on D. Steve a little bit.
My
So
guy.
I called him, talked to him a few days ago, and I'm like, hey, you have any stories on Mark Cuban? He says, nah, I don't have any stories, but he definitely does. And I said, okay, I'll ask him that question. So do you have any D. Steve stories? Good Deshaun stories.
Oh my God, I love D. Steve. So D. Steve, and he knows this. Like when we got him, he was a throw-in on the trade.
Yeah.
Washington wanted to get off of him. And we tried so hard to trade him. Nobody wanted him. Nobody wanted D. Steve. And D. Steve is one of probably 3-4 players that I've seen come through the Mavericks who, if he's just shooting around, cannot shoot. Cannot shoot to save his life. But you put him in a game, he is the ultimate gamer. And I'm watching him shoot, just shooting around.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could take this guy's money, and he might not like that part, but
No,
you put him in a game. And the best part about D. Steve, the season's going on, and he's at the beginning, he's not playing a lot, but the way he practiced and the toughness he brought, his teammates went to coach and said, we need to get this guy minutes, and we probably should start him.
Wow.
And that doesn't happen a lot, and that's the respect he had. And that toughness played out throughout the season. And he ended up shooting like 40% from three.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, he had the one game against the Heat in the finals where he carried us for, and had like 4 threes in the first half. And he's just a good dude. And you look at him and you just don't know what to expect. And then, he's different in his own way, but he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's one of a kind for sure.
Yeah, he certainly is.
Very...
I just want to know, D. Steve, do you still have the ATM in your house?
Oh boy, here we go. All right.
That kept him from spending money, so he had to take it out of an ATM, so he had an ATM.
Well, I want to thank you for the time.
Yeah, of
Seriously.
course.
I know both Jeff and Cube love you. You know.
Yeah, and actually LL, who's an investor, right?
LL, yep.
I just did a deal with LL for his classic hip hop company. So I'm indirectly partners with partners.
There you go.
Yeah, and so yeah, I love Cube, and Jeff and I go back ages to when we were both about 12 or 13. So
very cool. Yeah, no, the league, myself, everybody just really appreciates what you do.
Oh no, you guys are doing great. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, definitely. We've got one more thing for you.
Okay.
Little surprise.
All right.
So we knew you were into the 3-point shooting.
Right.
And I talked about the revolutionary basketball.
Uh-huh.
So I decided to get you a championship triplets jersey with your name on
There
the back.
you go.
There you go. So you got a little BIG3
the
stat.
triplets.
There you go. So that's the Joe
Champs.
Johnson team. Lisa
Yeah, well, I
Leslie
know
coach.
exactly. Joe Johnson hitting the game winner from the 4-point spot.
You know exactly what it is.
Ta-da.
There you go.
ISO Joe.
It's a good color. It's a Maverick.
It's a great color.
It's close to a Mavericks color. There you
go. A little
go.
bit too much UNC, but you know, it's still a good color.
Yeah, I apologize. Well, appreciate taking the time.
Of course.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you, Oliver.
Appreciate the love for the jersey. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that worked out. And thanks again for talking to us at BIG3.
You got it. Anytime. Congrats.
Thanks.
Fireball 3. Be there.